The position was being overrun, and the commander's gunner was down when he turned and shoved the Barrett at her. I was the radio man that day, not a shooter, not the team's decision-maker. I was there to keep the comms working and to relay the ground truth back to Element Command. What I saw clearly, because when you are not the man with the rifle you have time to watch. And what I watched on the roof of the grain exchange building in Sulharan changed the way I understood the words capable and qualified, and the specific way that capable people get missed when their paperwork only tells half the story. Commander Reyes Aldana had been running the overwatch position with 6 SEALs and 1 attached combat medic. We had taken the grain exchange building because it gave us height and clean sight lines on the southern approach corridor, our protection for a helicopter rescue element working a downed aircraft 2 kilometers out. The mission was to hold the position, provide overwatch, and keep the corridor clean. 3 hours in, it was working. The rescue element was making progress. We were doing our job. Then 3 gun trucks came in from the east quarter, and the situation changed inside of 60 seconds. They hit the north approach in overlapping fire, and they were fast, moving in a close column with tight spacing that told me somebody had briefed them on how to minimize our reaction time per vehicle. The lead truck had a heavy machine gun mounted in the bed, and the crew was working it in short, controlled bursts, walking rounds up the concrete parapet edge methodically. Petty Officer Crane, our Barrett M107 operator, was at the north face when a ricochet fragment came off the parapet lip and opened his right forearm at the elbow. He went down hard against the wall. The Barrett sat on its bipod, chambered and fed, with a full assault closing in under 45 seconds. Corporal Lina Farrow, the attached combat medic, was at Crane's side before anyone else reacted. She had the tourniquet out and applied and cinched in under 30 seconds, clean work without wasted motion. She pressed Crane's own left hand down on the strap and told him to hold pressure. Then she stood up and looked at the 50 cal. Aldana was scanning his team. He needed the Barrett working right now, before the lead truck cleared the final approach bend. He read his roster fast and came up short. Crane was down. The 2 men nearest the weapon had no documented qualification on the M107. The medic was supposed to be managing the casualty. "She's just a medic," he said. "Delosa, get on the gun." Delosa started moving. He was a capable man in most respects, but he had handled the Barrett twice in training and not under fire. When he settled behind the stock, I could see from across the roof that he was fighting the weapon rather than working with it. Farrow said, "I have 412 hours on the M107. Delosa stopped. He looked at Aldana. "I carry a designated marksman billet alongside the medic cross-training," she said. Her voice was even, not urgent, not defensive. "Both qualifications are current and active. Let me work." The gun trucks were 30 seconds from dead center on our position. Aldana looked at her for 1 full second. Then, "Do it." Delosa stepped back without comment. She went prone behind the bipod without hurrying. She found the stock, brought her cheekbone down to the optic, ran the bolt handle, confirmed the feed strip. Her left hand settled flat under the fore end and the weapon went still in a way that a Barrett only goes still when the person behind it has been there many times before, until stillness is the first thing they find when they go prone. She let out 1 breath. The lead gun truck was still closing at speed, maybe 1,800 meters out when her round hit the engine block. The vehicle lurched hard left and dug into the road gravel. The machine gun mount torqued sideways and the barrel dropped. The firing from that vehicle stopped. Moving target, single round, engine block. Aldana made a sound beside me, not a word, a sound. The 2 trailing vehicles reacted by splitting standard contact drill, spread the targeting solution, forced the gun to change angles, buy time. The left truck pulled into the alley between the market buildings and disappeared from our sight line. The right truck swung north and accelerated toward the irrigation canal, looking for a covered approach that would put it inside our defensive minimum inside 90 seconds. She stayed on the right vehicle. That was the correct call. She tracked it across open ground, and when it disappeared behind a row of low warehouse structures, she did not try to follow it through the buildings. She held the barrel on the canal bridge crossing, the point where the vehicle had to reappear in the open, and she waited. The truck came out at the bridge, front axle on the wooden planking. She fired. The round went through the lower windshield. The vehicle stopped on the bridge boards and did not move again. The north approach was closed. 4 men had dismounted from the left truck in the alley and were working their way toward our building's ground entrance. Aldana sent 2 SEALs down the interior stairwell to hold the door, then came back to the Barrett position. 4 in the alley, he said. I see the gap, she said, not looking up. 30 meters from the north corner of the market building. They'll cross from the market to the Chandler's building. 2 minutes, maybe 2.5. They'll wait until they think we're committed to the north problem. You're confident of that? It's what I do, she said. Crane had propped himself upright against the parapet wall, tourniquet on, arm elevated, conscious and thinking clearly. He had worked this rooftop for 3 hours and he knew the sight lines. He told her in a low, unhurried voice that the alley gap opened at the north corner and gave roughly 6 linear meters of exposed crossing ground before a man could reach the Chandler's building entry. She moved the bipod 1 click right. That was the full exchange between them, his description of the geometry, 1 bipod click. 2 minutes and 15 seconds later, the 4 men ran the gap. She fired 3 times. The first 2 went down inside the gap, the third at the far edge. The fourth reversed back into cover and did not reappear. The assault on the rooftop was finished. We held the position until the rescue helicopter was clear and climbing. Then we broke contact and extracted south. In the truck on the way back to the forward operating base, the cab was quiet. Crane rode in the back with his arm elevated and his eyes closed. Aldana sat in the front passenger seat watching the road. Farrow was in the rear seat checking her field notes, a small green notepad with patient observations from the day, written in a cramped, exact hand. I sat across from her and thought about the 412 hours. What that number meant in actual range time, in documented instruction, in qualification cycles maintained while simultaneously earning and maintaining a combat medic credential. That was not a person who had taken one path. That was a person who had looked at the job and decided to be ready for more of it than anyone was asking her to be. I asked her at the FOB where the Barrett time had come from. Scout Element 2 years, she said. Before that, Army Reserve Competitive Shooting Program 3 years. I put in for the medic cross-training after the scout billet. They cleared me for both and I kept both current. Aldana didn't know, I said. My attachment paperwork listed medic, she said. That was the billet. People read the billet and they stop at the billet. I asked if that bothered her. She thought about it honestly. It bothers me when it matters and today it mattered. Tomorrow the paperwork will list both. That's the better outcome. Aldana filed the after-action the following morning. He listed Farrow's Barrett employment as the decisive action in breaking the assault. He listed both vehicle kills with range estimates and round counts. He listed her dual qualification in the summary in full. And in the personal remarks section of his attachment request, he wrote the exact words he'd said when Crane went down. She's just a medic. His handwriting, his words. He did not have to include that sentence. He included it anyway. He recommended her decoration in the same document and requested her continued attachment on the element, and the 2 actions together said everything that needed saying without requiring further explanation. What struck me most when I read that document was not the recommendation or the detailed citations. It was the fact that he had named his own mistake in formal writing, in a government record, where it would be attached to her file. He had said she's just a medic at the moment of crisis, and he had been wrong and he had written that down where it would follow both of them. 18 months later she was reassigned to a different element in a different theater. Aldana was on the flight line when she left. I was standing about 50 feet away. Whatever passed between them was brief. She nodded once, shouldered her kit, and walked up the ramp without looking back. I have served with people who were good at one thing, and people who were outstanding at one thing, and a handful who were genuinely excellent at two things at the same time. I have never again met someone who maintained a sniper-grade Barrett qualification and a combat medic qualification simultaneously, quietly, for years, without announcing it, and simply waited for the day when both would be needed in the same 60 seconds. Call sign, Dust Devil. The element gave it to her because of the way she materialized at that 50 cal out of dust and emergency without warning, and nobody had seen it coming until the first round was already downrange, and the lead truck was sideways in the road with a dead engine. People read the billet and stop. She had known they would, so she earned 2 billets and kept both active and waited. On a rooftop in Sulheron, the wait ended. Aldana had known it was over before the barrel cooled. He just needed one night to find the honest words to write it down.